Welcome to Proven Not Perfect, the podcast. This is Chantra Powell, and boy, am I excited to share this conversation with you. So I have the privilege of being an alum of, I think, one of the best business schools in the land, Northwestern University Kellogg School of Management. And in this journey, we frequently get asked to go back and contribute to conversations with folks that are in the program at that time. And it is absolutely an honor to get tapped to go back, but it is also a blessing because inevitably you leave adding even more wonderful people, brilliant minds, and phenomenal experiences to your already great network. So today I'm sharing with you a conversation with one of those gems in my life. Her name is Ugochi Nwoga. Ugochi has just an inspiring story. She speaks about her career in corporate America. She speaks about her heritage as a Nigerian born talent who also has spent a significant amount of her upbringing here in the United States. She speaks of dark times, and she speaks of pushing through to finding her passion and, quite frankly, living her best. She is a new art gallery owner as well. And I'm excited to share that the art gallery in St. Augustine, Florida is grand opening this weekend, Saturday. So if you happen to be in the St. Augustine, Florida area, do yourself a favor and pull on over to Ovico Gallery. All right, I've already shared enough. I want you to enjoy this conversation with Ugochi Nwoga. Hi, Ugochi.
Hi, Chantra. Good morning.
Good morning. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I am here right now with Ugochi Nwoga. Ugochi is a wonderful woman, a Kellogg alum, right? Yes. Congratulations to you. Shout out. And you know what, Ugochi, I think that's even part of our story, right? Because when we talk about our journeys and the decisions that we make and the things that we do, it's never a one-way road to anything, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Kellogg was definitely played a huge role in that.
Yeah. No, that's right on. I love hearing people's Kellogg stories because, everybody was drawn to something sometimes different. But what were you drawn to initially? I was drawn to the network.
I underestimated the network. I think I was drawn to the brand, and just having that degree and wanting it for such a very long time. So the network just blew me away. That I completely underestimated.
Yes.
Yeah. What you come in sometimes and what you leave with is just completely different.
It's so true. I mean, I'm going to be honest. You're right. It was clearly the brand. I was clearly looking for an experience that allowed me to not just spend my time, but to value my time, right? So that was true. And when I say network, I assumed that there was such a deep and rich network of baddies, right? Across industries, across the world. It was only when I went through the experience that I realized seriously what that meant. Right? That's crazy. All right. We have done our Kellogg commercial. Yes. Shout out to Kellogg.
Yes. Check the box. Yes.
Two female deans in a row. Just saying, check, right? Can we just check?
Yeah. I mean, Kellogg is how we met, right? Yeah. So
Kellogg is how we met. Yes. Mm-hmm. My gosh. So that was, I think it was 20. I feel like it was 2018.
2018, yes, over the summer or something like that, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Kellogg definitely pulls us back to talk to classes, cohorts, and I'm going to tell anybody, if you get the chance, if you are a Kellogg alum and you're listening to this and you get the chance to go back and meet a new cohort. It is like opening a whole new box of new relationships, new networks, new ideas, new gifts,
Yes.
all the things. So go back, right? And I know you're going to do that.
Yes, yes. It's just that after I graduated, COVID came, so that just kind of obviously changed directions a bit. But I definitely plan on coming back for sure. I miss it sometimes, you know.
Yes, yes, the getaway for sure.
The getaway.
Look, as a mom and all the things, the getaway is real.
I'm telling you, I'm like, you can't put a price on a night of uninterrupted sleep where nobody's knocking on your door saying they have to pee or they have a you just sleep straight. That's why I used to tell my cohorts, I'm like, y'all don't understand.
They don't.
This is my nights of uninterrupted sleep, okay?
And the folks show up, you got two groups. You've got the group that shows up trying to hang out all night, and you've got the group that's like, I'll get a little bit of social, but I need the sleep. I need the sleep.
I was that crew, okay? I was like, I'll hang out, but I'm not trying to do the 3 o'clock, guys.
I need
every once in a while, but this is my retreat.
We were one and the same. All right, Ugochi, you're doing some amazing things right now, and we'll crescendo to some of those things because I just think that they're so inspiring and so brilliant for other people to hear. I'd love to start with the journey. Here you are, an African woman, African-American woman, and you have this heritage and this lineage and this experience in 2 lands, right? Girl, we need to unpack that because you want to talk about a little bit of envy sometimes, right? When you think about the richness of culture that our African brothers and sisters get to escape and claim and talk more about, that's so amazing to me. And I love hearing stories, and I love hearing how folks that are one step still connected feel that same longing, right? And so I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey. Tell us a little bit about growing up Ugochi Nwoga. How about that? TV show,
you're gonna
girl.
take it all back, right? Take it way back. Okay. Let me see if I can remember. No, you know, you're right. I'm grateful for sort of having, being able to straddle and really having the two, because I did grow up in Nigeria, but I did grow up in the U.S., right? So I went to high school in the U.S. I went to middle school in the U.S. And so in Nigeria, I was born in the U.S. We moved back to Nigeria, stayed there for a few years, 8 years or so, and then moved back to America. So I got some cultural foundational elements. I speak the language. I'm Igbo, that's my tribe. And I speak the language and the culture and everything. And then I came here, and I came here early enough to where I'm still part of the culture in the essence, like I can connect with my Black American friends and white friends, et cetera, in a way that's different from, others who may have moved here sort of like late teens or adulthood. So it's an interesting place to be. And I play it, as, as needed.
Ugochi, that has to be a superpower, because I talk a lot about superpowers and us not claiming the ones that we have. I think your ability to speak all those languages from Igbo to pop culture, that's a superpower.
Yes, I mean, yes, you can say that for sure, because I am able to, I understand both very, very well. And sometimes I'm accused of being one versus the other. So it's good. We moved here late 80s and to Buffalo, New York, with my family. And luckily all of us were able to come within a year together. But it was interesting. Sometimes you reflect on those little things that happen to you or you experience in the US. Like when I was in Nigeria and my dad will come home from the US because he was a professor, and he would at the University of Wisconsin, that's where he got his PhD, which is where I was born. And my mom got her master's from there. So they moved back, and he would go and teach there and come back. And he would always, the American suitcase smelled like apples. Like I was like, America smells like apples. He would come back with this suitcase full of, I mean, we had everything back home from America. It's above ground pools, talking dolls, race cars. We watched Sesame Street. He would tape all of these things while he was in the States and bring it back. We watched Sesame Street. We watched all the different shows that actually I thought were part of Nigerian shows, but turns out later that they're not because my dad brought them in. Wow. So when I came to America, I was like, oh, this place smells like apples. But once we got here, I was kind of faced with responsibility. My mom was pregnant with my youngest sister, and I matured fast. And I think you do that at home anyway, just because of the environment. So I was 9 years old, taking care of my baby sister. But when I came, there's this magazine. I don't know if you remember it. I'm really dating myself, but Spiegel magazine, right? Spiegel magazine would have these women in the baddest suits, right? Yeah. Like these three-piece suits with their briefcase. And I was like, whatever job you got to do to wear that, I want to do that, right? That was me. And my aunts can attest to that. I was like, I want to do that. And from then on, that everything I did was fashioned for that look, right? So we moved to Tallahassee, which is where I grew up, essentially in the U.S. I did middle school and high school and university. I went to FAMU there. But like when I was in high school and got my part-time jobs, I would get it. I didn't do like restaurants or grocery stores, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to be wearing those suits. So I did, yes. I was like, I went into like businesses, and I was either their filing person or admin or something, but I was in a corporate environment. And then, of course, I went to business school at FAMU, which had a really great business program. So, and then from there, I moved on to United Technologies. After I graduated, they recruited me, United Technologies Corporation, which is now Raytheon Technologies. Yeah. And was there for about 12 years. And
that culture reminds me of my GE experience.
Exactly, yes. And you had the rotational program, right, at GE. Mm-hmm. We did too at UTC, and I went through that financial leadership program. And I think at UTC, like, it was fantastic experience, great foundational business foundations and structure and processes and stuff like that. And I did, lots of challenging assignments. I went overseas twice. I had 2 international assignments. I did all the employee engagements. I got copious awards, but I wasn't wearing the 3-piece suit just yet. I was business casual, right? Because the people in those 3-piece suits from the Spiegel magazines were the VPs and the directors, right? The executives. And I was like, I checked all the boxes of the things that I needed to do, but wasn't quite wearing that 3-piece suit just yet, right? And obviously it's not the attire. It's the power behind it.
Yes.
And I wasn't really sure that I would get there in enough time, right? It was like, I felt like I had done the things that I was told to do and I was supposed to do. And I even became a Sarbanes-Oxley expert and other kinds of subject matter experts, but it just didn't seem, it seemed like it would take a little bit longer.
Now, give us some context, in the time frame, right? Because I'm just going to go back to what you brushed over really quickly. You land this great job with this great corporation in an esteemed program. You are clearly doing all the right things to excel and to be successful. They ask you to do something. It sounds like you were not slow to say yes, right? And that yes took you literally all over the world. You literally said yeses that took you all over the world. But then I hear you say you still were not in the 3-piece business suit. What? What was the time frame between the start of this journey and, some of these amazing stretch assignments that you would take around the world?
Yes, I started back in 2002. And then I'd always expressed, part of why I joined UTC is because they're a global company. And I knew that I wanted to go overseas at some point. And I didn't know much about the company, but I knew that they were in so many different countries. So I knew that was my opportunity to do that. And so maybe about 3 years later, maybe about 4 years later, I was asked to go to Norway to go and fix. They had an issue with Sarbanes, some internal controls issue that needs to be looked over. So I went, and it literally was, they asked me 1 week, and the next week I was in Norway, and I didn't know how long I would be there.
Wow.
That ended up being a short stint for like a couple of months, maybe about 3 months. I came back to the US, and then fast forward like 5 years later, went back to Norway. I literally was at a birthday party, at my friend's birthday party, 40th birthday party in Atlanta. The executive called me on a Saturday and said, look, we need help again in Norway. Can you come? And I said, when? And they said, like, next week. And I was like, okay, like, because here I am doing what I can, and executives calling me on my cell phone on a weekend, because I did a lot of networking with the executives. So I had pretty good rapport with them. And so I was there, and I said, how long am I going to be there? They're like, well, we don't know. It may be a couple of months. It may be a whole full expat thing. I was like, okay. So went back again to Norway, and I ended up being there for a year and a half. Right. Wow. And then after that, there was a $1 billion acquisition, which was the largest of Pratt & Whitney at the time, in Switzerland. And so I was invited to come and work there. And I said, okay. So there, and mind you, while I'm moving to Switzerland, I'm pregnant, right? Oh. Pregnant with my first child and moving to another country and actually had my baby in Switzerland. I mean, I worked until the last day. After work, 2 hours later, I started having contractions and I went into labor. While I'm in labor, Chantra, while I'm in having my contractions, I'm typing an email to my colleagues like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be there tomorrow. Here's what's left over. And I'm contracting and, timing my contractions and sending that off. Right.
Wow.
So, yeah. And so so my Europe stint lasted for about 3 or 4 years. And then I came back to UTC and I did a stint at Sikorsky for a little bit. So when I came back, it was almost like, oh, well, you have to, prove yourself, like, with the new organization I was with. And I was like, well, what about all these other things that I did, So it didn't feel, and I'm sure things are probably different now, but it just felt like it was going to be a longer and more arduous task. And so
Ugochi, I actually have to have us think about this a little bit, because I'm sure that someone listening to this is in a period of growth in their career, middle layers or whatever, 8 to 10 years with a vision of success and what they see for themselves, but not understanding why it doesn't seem to be happening for them, right? As you look back at those times and you think about what you needed to hear, knowing what you know now, right? Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to Ugochi back then, or to the listeners and viewers right now that are trying to figure that out? Because if you don't grow up with the script, you don't know the script, right? Mm-hmm. And you just have a North Star. Yours was the Spiegel catalog and this desire to live a certain way. And it was, you could see it in how you felt the folks in the magazine were, right? Somebody else might have a different, it could be to change their family's lineage. It could be so many different things that draw us to the life that we feel compelled to seek, right? But what would you look back and tell that Ugochi now on this side of it? Were you doing the right things?
I think probably I would have forced a track and projection on someone, meaning like an executive or a mentor. Like, what are the things that I actually need to do, and when, and what will happen after I do this? And while it's predictive and nothing is for sure, but if I take on this assignment, what will happen? Then what should I do next? And then what should I do next? Like creating that sort of guided path where I am for sure that these are the things that I need to do. These are the specific assignments.
Yes.
I don't think I had that guide. I think that I maybe thought that, you know, okay, well, if I'm going the extra mile and I'm taking on these international assignments that nobody else, my counterpart that didn't really look like me, they were chilling in Connecticut, the same job. Maybe they'll move on to another job, but within the same building, if you will, right? Same location. They weren't going to uproot their family to go overseas, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And maybe if they did, they were guided on it. It's like, okay, if you take this on, this is what you're going to get. If you do this, but I didn't do, I assumed, oh, well, they calling me on a Saturday and I'm going on a Thursday. So I'm definitely, this is going to be that job that's going to get me that promotion.
Oh, Ugochi, assume that I think is the Achilles heel, right? One, you're motivated and guided to do your best and to show up. But two, you assume that when you take the call and you do, everything else would lay itself out. So what I heard you really say to me is, I would tell Ugochi, take agency for yourself. Literally right now. When the call comes, what are they asking? And what are your needs? And how are you going to position that as well? Wow.
Because that's what I'm doing now. That's what the grown-up Ugochi is doing. I mean, I just got an offer for a business opportunity yesterday, and it seemed great, but I had all these other different types of questions, meaning, does this align with my goals? Is this, you know, what's going to happen if I do this? What's not going to happen if I do this? You know what I mean? And so I didn't do that back then. I was just doing the things that I thought, you know, were cool to do. I mean, were the things that I think will get me there. But I'm pretty sure my counterparts that didn't look like me were guided along the way. Okay, take on that role. Okay, these are the positions that are going to get you to the next level. Take that. Yeah. And that's, so I was kind of all over. I mean, I was doing great things, but it was still kind of all over the place. So when I came back to the States, I didn't sort of have sort of this complete career story that they could take on and move me up to the next level. I was here and I was there and I was this, and, you know, they heard all these great stuff that I was doing, but I wasn't there.
You weren't packaged. You weren't packaged, right? The way that we know we need to be. We need to be packaged and clear about what's in the box and what the box says on the outside. And quite frankly, where the box wants to be too, right? Yes. So it's all those things.
On the same breath, though, that's unpackaging, if you will, works the best for me outside of the company. Oh, right. The fact that I've gone to these different places and I kind of sort of speak German a little bit, but understand, you know, and things like that because of that Switzerland experience. It made my profile very attractive outside of the company. So then based on that, you also have to think to yourself, right? What do you really want? Do you want to stay here for your whole career? Then maybe do sort of the guided path, or do you want to be somewhere else in the next 10, 12 years? Well, what are the positions within the company that you can do that will help you? So you also have to have that mindset, you know, as well.
Ugochi, I think that's brilliant that you call that out, because here's the truth of the matter. Nobody starts off knowing it all. Nobody starts off with a script that really, if they are honest, they can tell you they knew was going to play out the way that it did. Just like you followed your heart and your instinct, and it not only took you around the world, but gave you those wonderful experiences that allowed you to be able to assess, okay, while I might not be for here, I have a whole new bag of great offers that I can put out there. And I love that. Okay, we got to talk about Kellogg. We got to talk about, you know, here you see this wonderful wonderful business school. Top, by the way, top business school, we might add. We have to say. You see this school, you see that it's a place where you would want to be. And you take all of that passion and desire to start this, right? And I would say it's light calling you, right? You've got this light calling you. And then the journey maybe turned a little bit for you. Tell us a little bit about the Kellogg calling and what your journey looked like.
Yes. So yes, so I obviously knew about Kellogg, but I thought that they were only based in Evanston. And it wasn't until 2017, I'd wanted to go back to school for my MBA. I'd done a master's at Penn State in supply chain management, and sort of did that, as my path to get to the MBA finally. At least that was one of the reasons. So 2017 comes along, and I start looking up schools, find Kellogg again, see there's a Miami campus. At that point, I was in Florida over the summer. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was living in Nigeria. So I'd left at this point, I'd left UTC to move back to Nigeria to become the CFO of an agriculture firm. And so typically what we would do is over the summer, we would come to the US. And so I did that in 2017. I started poking around on the internet for schools. I found Kellogg in Miami. And then I started the application, but then I stopped because the deadline, the final deadline was around the corner. I was like, there's no way I can write 3 essays by then. And then I get a call from Kellogg, like, you started an application, what's going on? I was like, I don't think I can finish. They said, well, you can. And I came out to Kellogg in Miami campus. And the story goes on, right? I just became very interested. The more I interacted, I completed my application, and then I got in. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm in. Now what? Right? Okay. This is serious, man. So
now it starts.
I get the email. I was like, wow, okay, this is real. So I had to take a moment and reflect on it, and then from there, when I started school, I went back to Nigeria, and I was going from Nigeria to Miami once a month. Now, by this time, I had moved on from the role that I was in Nigeria, where I was wearing my 3-piece suit, by the way.
All right. It did happen.
I wasn't faking it or trying to be like I wasn't. Okay. So
I love it.
In my home country, wearing my 3-piece suit. So my experience in Nigeria was fantastic. I was literally living my dream. I had the job, I had the status, and then of course the amenities, which are really nice, the help. I had family. My best friend from Atlanta moved to Nigeria at the same time we did, and we've been talking about living in the same city for years, and now we're in the same city, and it was amazing. So by now I had left, and I had started my with my co-owner, co-partner, a co-founder, if you will, this agro drone company. And so we started the agro drone company, and I'm going to Kellogg once a month, right? And so I would fly from Nigeria, from Lagos to Miami. And so after a while of doing that, or even while I was doing that, I was in a situation where it just, being home, going to the school was causing a lot of stress in my personal life. And it became, it just grew, and it just got worse and worse. And each time I would go to school, I'd be like, I hope I see you guys next time around. But when I would go there, thinking that I wouldn't come back the next time, I would have such a fantastic and wholesome and fulfilling experience, both in and out of the classroom, that I would come back home like, I don't think I can stop this. This thing was meant to be, because every time I go, it's a reinforcement that I should be here. And the way it kind of fell into my lap, if you will, in getting into Kellogg, and how everything was just kind of, how the experience was just moving so fluidly. I was like, I'm supposed to be here, right? And so I'd come back with that. I would go with a little bit of stress to school. Like, I think this is my last time. This thing is causing me a lot of stress back home. But then I would leave like, oh man, this is the bomb, man.
Energized, right?
And we get sushi for snacks, right? Like, let's the food is off the chain. It was like, you know,
Girl, we paid for them sushi. That sushi.
We did.
That.
We did. Like, that food was off the chain. So come back. And so it got to a point where being in that space back home became deleterious to both the continuation of my education, deleterious to my mental health and stability. And so in order for me to finish my experience and be in a space and and have the energy to really experience the embodiment of what the program represents, and also to have the right clarity and mental space just for myself, I had to leave, right? I had to leave. And it wasn't like a flimsy or capricious decision. It was, I had to leave. So I left abruptly, unexpectedly. Wow. I left everything back home. Everything, all of my personal effects, all of my paintings, I just left. And so I came to the US and basically...
I'll just take pause and just bring light to, there are times where we can start down a path with all of the right intentions and all of the right support and everything appearing to be laid out beautifully as we expect it to be. And then stuff happens, right? And that stuff can look different for everybody, but stuff happens that brings so much confusion, hurt, darkness, all the things to your space and to your life. But you still had this vision that what you were pursuing was with intention and the right thing. Man, it takes so much to keep focused on that light that's calling you when everything around you starts to crumble and fall. I needed to stop and give pause to that because it speaks to your strength. It speaks to your resilience. And it speaks to your conviction to keep going. And I think that that's something that so many people need to hear more about, because let's face it, there are very few times in life where you can say, I'm going that direction, and nothing happens to get in your way or to knock you off your thoughts that you knew in your gut were the right thing. How did you reconcile within yourself that your vision for what was calling you was so great and so big that with all of the darkness happening around, you weren't going to give up?
Wow. Yes. Oh, wow. So yes, Kellogg was, in this scenario, Kellogg was my light. And that was what I was following. And I didn't even realize how much of my light, or how it would open up even just new paths and new visions, right? So, when I would go to the school and have the class weekends, and I could really see the value of what I was learning, of my interactions, and even just, it was like these little boons that I would get through discussion with people, connections with people, and, all of the lights just coming on. And I'm like, this has got to be the right thing. Because if it wasn't, I wouldn't have such, such an effusive, effect or experience while I'm here. And things that would happen would just be like little signs and blessings along the way, whether it was in class, whether it was interaction with someone, or whether it was just being at the right place at the right time. I mean, when I met you, that was like the weekend before I left. That was the weekend. That was the week after the weekend that I left, right? And it was like, and when that interaction happened, for instance, like with you, and that whole week, I think we had a whole week of class. By then, I'd left like a week before, right? Literally like a few days before. And I was like, yes, I made the right decision. Like it was so blindingly salient that I made the right decision. And what I had left was so dark.
Yeah.
And it was moving me away, not only from who I was, but who I was to become through this program. It was so dark and so heavy that I was like, that can't possibly be it. And what was the alternative if I had stopped, right? The school. That was another thing that I thought.
But let me tell you, I'm gonna give you this credit and not let you give it back. You had an openness to receive. You had an openness to be available for something that was calling you. You had an openness to experience new things that would get your senses popping again, right?
Yeah.
I would like to think, as awesome as I truly believe Kellogg is, Kellogg was literally a catalyst for some things that sound like they were happening for you anyway. You almost went from the girl who was stuck on the Spiegel catalog to living the Spiegel catalog to now a woman who is drawn to now the depth of more. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I mean, I definitely know that, I feel like I'm guided by the Spirit and gifted the grace, right? From the Lord. And everything that I have put my, mind and energy on, I have received, right? I always, for instance, I wanted to work for a major Fortune 500 company. I wanted to live in California, which I eventually ended up doing with UTC. I wanted to move overseas. All these different things.
So you were manifesting all these things.
I'm telling you. So
Yes.
things kept moving. And so, I just think it's just a great.
Which we do, by the way, Ugochi, which we do. And that's why I think too many of us don't give life to the words that we say.
Conscious, yeah.
And the people that we put in our ecosystem.
Yes.
Oh, if you haven't done a process check on that.
Yes.
Ugochi and I implore you to, because
exactly.
It's real, right? It is real. It is real. Yes.
You have to. I wanted to go to a top business school. It was just happening. And so, and life will throw you roadblocks and will throw you challenges and turmoil. But if you have that determination, right, and that vision, right, you just go for it. There's this painting called The Great Arrival.
Oh.
And it's by Chike Honora, and obviously we'll talk about that a lot down the line. But it's a painting of a sailboat, a bunch of sailboats, and they're all synchronized. But underneath it is all of these waves and these turbulence and everything, right? And when I think about my life and that painting, I think about my vision and my goals and my ambition being the synchronization of several boats, right? And then underneath it, with all the waves, it's like the vicissitudes of life, right? And regardless of what's happening beneath that, and the waves and the turbulence, that steadiness still has to go. And how you manage all of those disturbances, right, will allow you, if you manage it properly, it will allow you to still keep going. And whether it's your mental states keep going, whether it's your goals and your aspirations keep going, but that's just how life is. So yeah.
Oh, Gochi. All right. So here it is. You are so fierce that you were able to pull it together and keep it moving, even when you didn't think you could. You get that degree. Congratulations. Another wonderful accomplishment for you, because you've already shared so many. And then you have clarity. Clarity comes.
Yes.
It brings you back to the U.S., nestled for good. and or at least for now, we won't say for good because
right.
we have stories, right? But you have this clarity, and so tell us, okay, so now you've got this Kellogg degree, you're here. How do you feel it's all coming together?
So after Kellogg, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this corporate. I'm going to be this corporate executive, I think. But I haven't really I haven't been in corporate America since 2014. I've lived in another country, in an African country. I've worked for an African entrepreneur. I've become an entrepreneur myself. How am I going to mold myself back into the UTC years, basically, right? After experiencing all these sort of dynamic and more flexible, if you will, and freeing experiences, how will I shape? In fact, I talked to my the career. I think Kellogg gives you like these career advisor, and that was one of the things. She was like, "What are your concerns about?" I said, "I don't know how to be that corporate America person that I was before because I've gone through." I've been in Nigeria where you have the freedom to express yourself anyhow you want, and I've worked for African entrepreneur. I've become an entrepreneur. How am I going to shift? And she said to me, why do you think you have to shift?
That's like, right.
Why can't you just be who you are today?
Oh, so, I don't know who she was, but give her a high five.
That was Colleen. Yes. Who do you?
Colleen. Yes.
Yes. She goes, why do you think you have to shift? I was like, I don't know, because that's what you do here, right? And so, and being in the Nigeria work environments, you become more expressive, right? So I'll give you an example. Here you may say, I think if somebody brings up an idea that's dumb, and you say, you'd be like, perhaps we should look at it a different way or something. And then back home you may say, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you do that?
Girl, I'm Nigerian. I didn't do the research yet, but I've come to the conclusion that I'm Nigerian. Maybe even Igbo.
Yes. So you're just like, what's wrong? And this is not what you're saying behind their back. You're just, and that's just how it is. But so I had to, I vacillated between back corporate or what else. And so there's this saying in Igbo land, my Igbo culture, and it says, "Oge mmadụ tetere wụ ụtụtụ ya." And that means that when a person wakes up, is their morning.
Oh.
When a person wakes up, is their morning.
Oh.
Your morning could be 2 a.m., 5 a.m. It could be 2012. It could be 2022. But whenever it is yours. You got to own it. You got to embrace it and do something with it, right? And my morning, my ututu was spring of 2020. So a few months after graduation. My mom has this home healthcare business she's had for 15 years. And it was in need of leadership by a corporate person, somebody who's had business experience, been to business school, who understands business, not necessarily healthcare, because she does, but business to bring structure, to bring growth, and implements systems and processes and stuff like that. And so I'm like, oh yeah, we should find this person, that person, we can put up this ad. And so my ututu, my morning, was when I realized that this person is me.
Oh, wow.
Why would I go and give my expertise and experiences to grow another company or someone else's company when I had a company right there, right in front of me? In fact, literally across the street from me, right?
Wow.
And so when I woke up, and of course, it's not about how long it takes you to wake up, right? It's about what you do when you're awake and the destination. And once you reach that destination, you revel in it and you get joy and peace and satisfaction out of it. And that's what I got when I made the decision to join the family business as the CFO and CSO. And yeah, so that was my
Wow.
the start of my post Kellogg experience. And the interesting thing about being in the family business, so we have the home healthcare company.
Yeah, talk about it, because I started one in 2020.
A home healthcare company?
No. A family business.
A family business, right? I thought so. Yes. So my mom is the CEO. She's the owner of it, and my dad plays a role as a COO. And then my sister actually is a director of one of our divisions. And so it's been really it's been a great experience. I mean, the sort of relationship and communication channel that we have amongst ourselves as a family is really good. And I've gotten everything that I need to know about home health care. I've learned from my parents, so that's been good. And so I bring my expertise from the business side and the structural side, and I'm able to apply it, with the knowledge that they give me about the home healthcare industry side. And it just kind of, gels and works really, really well, right? And not to say that there are no challenges and stuff, but I think we're pretty fortunate to be able to work as well as we do, because everybody plays their specific role, right?
That's the key to family business, isn't it?
Yes.
There cannot be gray area. It has to be very clear. This is your role. Yes. This is your role. And It's even more important in family business, I think, because it's so, how do you turn it off? How do you go back to being mom, brother, sister, husband, wife?
Yeah, we kind of just, when it's business, it's business. I mean, we talk straight about business. When we talk about family stuff, sometimes business gets in, because that's just how it is. But when it's business, like sometimes my sister will call me and during work hours, and we'll talk about something work related. Then she'll be like, oh, then she starts talking about something. I was like, this is an after 5 conversation. That we can talk at either 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock about, this is an after. I'm not about to talk about the family reunion or something.
That's right.
At 11:30. Okay.
That's right on.
So really trying to, and really having the courage to, if there's an issue, regardless of the fact that it's your mother or father or sister, having the courage to be able to express what that issue is, and not allow sort of the relationship to hinder or to disrupt the way that you need to express it. Because at the end of it, and I would always say at the end of the day, we're running a business. We need to make money. So it's not about sentiments.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not about sentiment. This is the real deal. This is our livelihood. So when I project either a concern that I have about a particular area, maybe that somebody, one of them is managing or something like that, I will project respectfully, but I try to sort of block sentiments in it. You know what I'm saying? If you're not doing something correctly, you're not doing it. If we think we can improve, we think we can improve, but it's not about whether you're related to me or not. It's about the business. Like at the end of the day, we have a business to run.
That's right.
And so, so really delineating those is a constant. It's a constant thing. But for us, I think it kind of flows. It flows naturally. When somebody asks me clinical questions, I'm like, that's not me. That's Dr. Imelda. So we don't try to, Or here's another thing too that happens, because sometimes you may feel, whether this is true or not, that people may try to say things to possibly pin you against that other family member, right? Well, Dr. Imelda said blah, blah, blah. And if I did not necessarily agree with what they said, Dr. Imelda said, or don't really believe if Dr. Imelda said that, rather than me saying, oh, that's not true, that's not correct, I may say, well, let me check with Dr. Imelda and get back to you. So if they come to me about what somebody in the family said,
yes,
I will say, let me check.
Yes.
Do you understand? Or let me get back to you. Or I would say, if it's something that I think that one of the family members should have answered and they're coming to me, I'm saying, well, what did Dr. Imelda say? Or what did Dr. Jude say?
Yes.
What did Machi say, right? And then they say, well, they said such and such. And to the extent, if I don't agree, or even if I do agree, I will still verify from them and say, hey, did you say X, Y, and Z? Or did you talk to this person? So that's another, and it's a level of protectionism in some sense. and it's also to show a unified front, but not like in a favoritism perspective. It's just, you know, you just got to clarify, and you can't do hearsay. You know, I mean, that should be applied regardless. You can't do hearsay. Like, let me just check. I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. Let me just check with them and see.
Well, Ugochi, these are pearls of wisdom that anyone who is either working in a family business right now, thinking of starting a family business, these are pearls of wisdom that really, really matter. And I actually think it's something that even if you're just an entrepreneur, starting up with a group of friends, right? These are some truths that really, really work to keep that infrastructure tight as you're growing and bringing in other people to it's a different thing. All right, so here's the thing. You're going to have to take us back, because you talked about when you escaped from that dark time, you had to leave almost everything behind, including some treasured art. And then you mentioned a little while ago a wonderful scene from an artist by the name of Chike.
Yes, Chike Honora.
Chike Honora. So now tell us what that means for your life now, because I hear you've got some amazing passion projects in play.
You know, it's so funny because it's, you know, sometimes I say it's this next section of my life is so random, but then in some sense it's not, because it has characteristics of you know, things that have happened and that I like, that, but I just didn't think I'd put it in this form. So the beautiful thing about leaving behind and starting, even though having to start from the bottom, but still starting over, is that I was in a space where, despite the turmoil I endured and basically turning my life upside down, I ended up in a dynamic space where creative thinking, and eclectic thinking resided and thrived, right?
Oh, I feel that space right now.
I'm telling you, I don't think I would have been in this space had I stayed, right? Because I had the Kellogg education, which basically made me feel like I could do anything. And not just the education, but just the experience and the interactions and the connections. And then I was in a family business. And then I was in a place where I just had good energy around me and good influence around me. It allowed me to be free mentally, right? It allowed me to really think through possibilities, right? And really just be in a place where, like I said, like I do, anything was possible. I mean, I was with a group of people or a network of people who were doing all kinds of incredible things. Yeah. And then I was being with the family business. I had some room and flexibility and allowance from my parents to do whatever it else that I wanted to do. So because I was there mentally, whatever I received, there's something, again, I'm going to go back to an Igbo term. It says, Ihe mmadụ ruru oge ya awụghị ụsa. That means that whatever comes to you at your time is not through, we call it long throats, but it's not by begging or forcing. Whatever comes to you, if at your time, whenever it gets to you, is not through forcing and begging, because it was meant to get to you. It was meant for you. And so that for me is a manifestation of this gallery, right? If you told me a year and a half ago I was going to open a gallery, I'd be like, I don't know how it's going to happen. And so I sometimes I talk about the gallery, I'm like, it's so random, but
let's be clear, she's opening an art gallery.
Yes, and it's an art gallery, yes, featuring, it's called Ovico Gallery. And Ovico Gallery, the birth of Ovico Gallery, without me knowing, was in 2005. And I say that because when I think through how I got there, when my time came and how I got to me, it started off with purchasing Suitcase paintings. I was a huge fan of his paintings. And that was in 2005. In 2005, I bought the first painting. Then I collected a couple more and a couple more, which are the things that were left behind, and God knows where they are today. And so when I was graduating from Kellogg, I wanted one of my group members, Tony, Group B, shout out to Group B, Tony. He had been very kind to us and really treated us quite a bit. So we wanted to give him something. So we were like, what do we give somebody who, we thought had everything? And I had talked to the artist about this, and he said, why don't you give him a painting from me, from Nigeria, that he doesn't have that? Wow, that's fantastic. Wow. So I brought it up to my group members. I said, we're going to have to put some serious money together to get this painting. And so we did. And so Chike sent over his painting and sent over other paintings. And so we presented the painting to Tony, and those other paintings he sent our last class weekend, I spread them all over, that upstairs room in the Miami campus, spread them all over. I was like a market woman in Nigeria. Okay. I spread them. I said, this is art for sale. Come on. I mean, it was so rough, very raw. Okay. I had canvas, and these canvases, these are thousands and thousands of dollars worth of paintings. I just spread them all over. Okay. I was a market woman in Nigeria. And I ended up selling a couple, and then through some time, I sold some. And so when my friend, my best friend Ogo from Nigeria, when she moved back to the US, it was an opportunity to bring some paintings over to the US. So I had all these paintings because we had the success of selling the initial paintings. I had all these paintings. And so it was like, okay, I need to sell them. How am I going to do this, right? Because I have 10 times more or 5 times more than I had before. And so at Chile, we had a space that was rented out adjacent right next to the space that we are in. So we were renting it out. We owned the building, and it hadn't been rented out for a year, right? The people moved in. I had all these paintings, and I was like, paintings, space, art gallery, right? Wow. And so those were some preliminary thoughts. And then a friend of mine, Andre, he used to work for UTC, and now he works for United Rentals. He said they were coming to St. Augustine to have an executive retreat. This was last year, summer. Mm-hmm. And so I said, and I thought to myself, executive retreat, money, come to my gallery. Is what I told him.
I love it.
Come to my gallery. And then he's like, oh, really? You have a gallery? I was like, yeah. In my head, I was like, okay, I'm just going to get those canvases and I'm going to pin them up to the wall in that space, and they're going to come and see my paintings. That was my
entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
And listen to me, our Nigerian culture, our. Y'all, I don't think I'm Nigerian, but I don't know. Maybe I am.
You should do that genealogy thing.
Yes.
So he said, oh, you are? He said, well, my boss's son is an art guy, a digital art guy, and he worked in galleries, and he's, he knows a lot. I was like, oh yeah, send me his number. And from there, Chantra, the paintings from the space, everything in between is this consultant Riley that I brought on, and it now has morphed into something much bigger.
Wow.
Than I ever imagined. I didn't think I would have to paint we painted the walls, ripped out the carpets. It just blossomed into something more magnificent, but it's, that's how we ended up with the gallery. So then I got the paintings, got some of them stretched, put it up. We had a soft opening in December, and the gallery is literally from my office in Chile. If somebody was to call that they wanted to see, I just go walk 6 feet, open the door, and let them in. So it's just amazing how these things just kind of come together. And in
you know what though? You followed the light.
Yes.
You followed the light.
I believe in the lights. I believe in the light.
From Kellogg, you followed the light and the instinct in your gut that said that there's better. And you kept fearlessly marching for it and claiming it and manifesting it. Oh my God. When is the art opening? When is the opening?
The opening is January 29th, and that's next Saturday. Yes. As a matter of fact, I got a call from the Jacksonville news guys yesterday.
Wow.
like they want to do an interview with me next week. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yes, January 29th is the opening, and we're really excited. We're really excited about what the gifts we're going to be able to give to the people. One of my passions has always been exposing African talents in the Western world. So between that and my love for the artwork by the artists, just culminated into sort of this really great venture. So we co-own it, me and the artist, and we're just excited. We're excited it's at St. Augustine has never seen anything nothing like this. I mean, this is definitely something that we're very, very proud of. So yeah. I mean, I think ultimately for me, it's think about all the turmoil, think about the successes, but always maintaining a state of gratitude, right? Constant state of gratitude, because you have to go through things in order to get to things, right? You have to go through to get to.
Girl.
And so if you're in a constant state of gratitude, even when you're going through it, even the worst times, if you stay in that constant state of gratitude, which means that you have hope that it's going to get better,
Amen.
you will realize the realization and the manifestation of all of that turmoil to get to where you are, you would see that. And so
Preach, Ugochi. Girl, look, I could keep talking. I know you are a busy woman. You are not only leading a family business, you are getting ready for a wonderful art opening. And I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that I can be there. It's a little bit of a drive, but I'm really, I'm manifesting that I'm gonna be there.
Amen. Let that subconscious talk to you.
Yes, it's calling me for sure. Girl, look, this has been just a gift to spend time with you, sharing your story. Your story is just so packed with so many inspiring nuggets that I know that those that listen will be receiving. And if they open themselves up, they will be blessed in receiving. So
thank you.
Look, sister, I am hugging you. I am so proud of you. I am so grateful for that chance opportunity for somebody to ask me to come back to Kellogg and to be a blessing to others. And I'm so excited that I was blessed with you and so many others. So
thank you. Thank you, Chandra. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you so much. We'll be talking.
Okay. All right.